wanted to, but he's in Bitcoin, where he can take bribes from overseas. I guess he doesn't mind the government being shut down.
And here is Kent in Erie, Illinois, Republican. Hi, Kent.
Good morning. When I hear Hakeem Jeffries speak, it reminds me of an old, I think it's an Arab saying where the dogs bark, but the caravan passes. What Trump is trying to do is maybe keep the country out of bankruptcy. And he's got one of the smartest people in America trying to help. And it's a terrible thing. Every time the Democrats talk about Musk or any of this billionaire Musk, it's like when the Democrats are little teaching their children to talk, they say, now the first thing you learn is no tax breaks for the billionaires. What they're trying to do with this government, with this bill, is there's a terrible amount of waste and fraud, and people all over sell their food stamps so they can buy drugs and try and get some of this stuff corralled into where the country can survive. And all the Democrats can do is just talk about their own personal things. Whenever the Democrats call in, it's never the country. It's never the country they're concerned with. It's always, well, I'm spending so much money on eggs and all this. For 4 years, these people were silent while tens of millions of people come into the country and change the paradigm of our country. They have nothing to say about that. So how could anybody in their good right mind listen to these Democrats now when they say, well, Trump's doing it for money? Hell, if Trump buys a Pepsi, he can't buy any better Pepsi than I can buy. What would he do with all this money if he had it? It's everything with the Democrats is, well, the Republicans are billionaires. They're doing everything for the billionaires. The biggest percentage of people that benefited from the Trump tax cuts are the lower income people. Should they not renew the Trump tax cuts? All these morons that call in and talk about tax cuts for billionaires are going to find out that the biggest percentage of the tax cuts that Trump gave were the lower people on the income scale. Now, type that up on your thing and see if I'm lying.
All right, Kent. And this is the front page of the Wall Street Journal about the stock market. It says the market plunges, recession worries spread. It says a new round of recession fears rattled markets on Monday, sending the Dow Jones Industrial Average down 890 points, eroding Wall Street consensus that U.S. stocks would be among this year's biggest winners. It says worries about a trade war, signs of flagging growth, and splinters in the artificial intelligence trade have taken some of the shine off that optimism. President Trump declined over the weekend to rule out a recession this year, setting off a fresh wave of declines in U.S. stocks. And he was interviewed by Fox News on Sunday and talked about the possibility of recession. Here he is.
Look, I know that you inherited a mess, and you said that the other night.
I've only been here,
but are you expecting a recession this year?
I hate to predict things like that. There is a period of transition because what we're doing is very big. We're bringing wealth back to America. That's a big thing. And there are always periods of, it takes a little time. It takes a little time. But I think it should be great for us. I mean, I think it should be great. It's going to be great ultimately for the farmer. You know, don't forget, I made the deal with China on a farmers where they had to buy $50 billion worth of product. $50 billion from 15 to 50.
Did they
and it was
follow
great.
Up and do it?
They did it when I was president. What happened is when Biden was president, they didn't buy any longer. Yeah, because there was nobody to call them. I used to call President Xi. I said, you got to do me a favor. You got to, live up to that agreement. And he was great. He did.
Before you came into the Oval Office the first time, you were a very successful businessman, very successful real estate executive. And a lot of people said, oh, this is the business president. This is it. He's watching the stock market. He knows all about, he doesn't want the market to go down. And now we've got tariffs and the market has been going down.
Well, not much. I mean, in all fairness,
you said, look, we're going to have a disruption, but we're okay with that. Is that what you meant? The stock market going down was the disruption? What other disruption were you alluding to?
Look, what I have to do is build a strong country. You can't really watch the stock market. If you look at China, they have a 100-year perspective. We have a quarter. We go by quarters.
That's true.
And you can't go by that. You have to do what's right.
And back to the phones to Monique in Washington, D.C., Democrat. Good morning.
Hello, I have two quick comments. My first one is to the guy in Illinois. Under Trump taxes, me and my husband have been writing a check to the federal government and our local state for the past 3 years under that tax bracket, under that tax code that Trump created. We have been writing a check to the federal government and our local city government. And the reason why I'm calling is I am a D.C. resident, and I'm behooved because Congress is trying to force the District of Columbia to make a $1 billion cut to our budget when we don't have to. D.C. pay more in federal dollars than 21 states. We are not a part of the federal government. Our budget does not coincide with anything that is going on up in the Hill. We earn and spend our own money. And yet, we do not have a vote in the Congress or the Senate. I don't know why they're trying to break anything that is good. The city takes care of itself. I don't understand. How are they going to force us to cut public safety, education, and housing when we don't have to? Our budget has been balanced for 28 consecutive periods. Our Mayor Bowser have done an amazing job with this city. Just like President Trump just said it takes time. Give it time. The District of Columbia, we have came from the worst possible situations, from the crack pandemic to immigration to everything else. And our mayor have done everything possibly that she could have to bring our city to where it is today. And she's still working on it. But how can you force us to cut $1 billion from our budget when we don't have to? Our budget is balanced and paid for. Leave us alone.
Okay, so Monique, I want to share what you're talking about to get everybody up to speed. Here's the Washington Examiner. Stopgap funding bill would cut D.C. budget by $1 billion. It says that the continuing resolution would treat Washington's budget like a government agency's, rolling back discretionary funding. It would also break with 20 years of precedent. Since 2004, Congress has allowed Washington to maintain its budget levels without disruption if a stopgap funding bill needed to be passed. And it is, here is D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser talking about how the short-term CR would impact D.C.'s budget. Here she is.
Our budget was balanced and approved. And if we go back to fiscal 2024 levels, we would be forced to reduce spending by $1.1 billion in only 6 months. But here is why we're here today, because Congress can fix this. They can fix this $1.1 billion problem that we have brought to their attention in the draft CR. The Congress can add the language back to the continuing resolution, the same language that's been there for the past 2 continuing resolutions that authorize us to spend our locally generated revenue according to our own approved budget and timeline. And I want to emphasize the local part of that statement. The District of Columbia raises and spends its own money, just like every other state. So remember that the budget we're talking about, this budget, the approved FY25 budget, was introduced by me and approved by this council. It focuses on three main areas: public safety, public education, and economic growth. Disrupting those investments won't be good for DC or our country.
And we are taking your calls until for about another half an hour. Here's Mark in Hamlin, Texas, Independent Line.
This may be out there and different from what we're talking about. I'm not into politics, but what I'm seeing is a disruption of the White House in our country. What I'm trying to say is that we're not looking at the fact that maybe Donald Trump has another agenda completely with bringing these people into the House, tearing our government down. Maybe he has what he's done 4 years ago and attacking the White House is my point. I'm not into politics at all, but what I'm seeing is just a totally different agenda we're not even looking at. He might be having something way out of line that we're not even aware of yet that he's up to. Don't even know if that's I'm sorry, my phone's breaking up. If that's the case or not, but why aren't we even looking at that? This guy, and I'm not having anything against the guy, but it looks like that this is totally unorthodox from what I'm used to seeing when I turn the news on. That's all. Thank you.
On the Republican line in Decatur, Alabama, Audrey, you're next.
Good morning, Mimi. How are you this morning?
Good.
I'm very pleased with it because I called in a couple of months ago and talked to you about how we're 6 months into the fiscal year already, and then if you give them a full budget, then they get 1.5 times the money.
No,
and I'm very pleased.
But remember, I told you didn't. Yeah, it doesn't work that way.
Yeah, but I'm pleased that it's gonna extend for 6 months, and it has $500 million in it for WIC, and it's got money for the PACT Act, not as much as we hoped for, but it does have money. DC was cut because they had the inauguration money in there last year, and Virginia Fox gave y'all a shout out yesterday in the budget committee, and Tom Cole and Rosa DeLoria really explained what's in H.R. 1968, which is the continuing resolution, and it doesn't cut Medicare, Medicaid, anything like that. They also went over a bill that would extend looking for those people that got unemployment during the pandemic for 10 years because the statute of limitation was running out in 17 days. So I would suggest people should watch the budget committee and get more about this, because all it is like if we were getting a bridge in the 5th District of Alabama, then the bridge wouldn't be in there this time. So that accounts for a lot of the cuts. It's what pork they put in it. The only thing I'm worried about is we're going to have to put pork back in it in the Senate to get enough votes. So hopefully the government won't shut down, but 90% of the VA employees are essential. So I shouldn't have an interruption in, where I go to the doctor and stuff. But I thank you, and you have a very blessed day.
All right, you too, Audrey. And Representative Thomas Massie of Kentucky posted this on X on Sunday. He said, "Unless I get a lobotomy Monday that causes me to forget what I've witnessed the past 12 years, I'll be a no on the CR this week. It amazes me that my colleagues and many of the public fall for the lie that we will fight another day." And then this is what President Trump on Truth Social about Congressman Tom Massie. He says, "Of beautiful Kentucky is an automatic no vote on just about everything, despite the fact that he has always voted for continuing resolutions in the past. All caps, he should be primaried, and I will lead the charge against him. He's just another grandstander who's too much trouble and not worth the fight." And here is Sharon calling from Oregon, line for Democrats.
Hi, I wanted to I'm one of those, and please bear with me, I've got a couple things. I'm one of those moron Democrats. I deal with numbers. In the last tax cut that Republican referred to, if you earned less than $30,000, you got $110 back. If you earned between $27,000 and $100,000, you averaged $700 back. If you earned over $370,000, you got $12,000 back. If you were the top 1%, you got $220,000 back. And that's what this is all about. He, in his inauguration, behind him were billionaires. All those guys want this tax cut. This continuing resolution isn't about funding the country. It's about getting that tax cut through, because once it goes through, we're already trillion. The last time it put us trillions in debt. It'll add to the debt, and then that will give an automatic reason for cutting Social Security, Medicare, et cetera, that are big spending bills. On the backs, the rich will get their tax cut, and then it'll be, wow, the debt's imploding. We've got to cut Medicare. We've got to cut Medicaid. Elon Musk said yesterday that Social Security was not needed. It should be wiped out, that it was an entitlement that just needs to go away. They tell you ahead of time. He told you he wanted this tax cut ahead of time. He tells you ahead of time. People don't listen and believe it. But you can see what's happening. They're cutting little things in the government. Those things aren't going to amount. Those the things he's cut so far, that's a drop in the bucket. That's a teardrop in a bucket of tears to get us in line. And if you add big benefits, tax cuts for the billionaires, Bezos pay nothing, Elon Musk pay nothing, those people pay nothing, you're not balancing the budget. Massey is actually an honest man. He says, I'm not going to vote for a bill that gives tax cuts when we have debt. He's actually doing what Ted Cruz and Biggs and all those other guys railed when the Democrats were in. But they lied. They
all right.
Really
well, Sharon, let me show what Elon Musk said about entitlements. This is Bloomberg reporting. Musk says entitlements, quote, big one to cut in Trump's Doge push. It says that billionaire presidential advisor Elon Musk called entitlement spending, including Social Security and Medicare, a key target for cuts, arguing the federal programs are plagued by fraud.